The sky above Earth was dark, filled with strange lights and shapes. The people of Earth looked up in terror as the largest ships they had ever seen filled the sky. These were not Earth ships. They didn't belong to any human force. These ships were different, alien, strange, and terrifying. For days, the news channels broadcasted the same message over and over. "Surrender, Earth. You are no match for us. Your planet is ours now." The voice was cold and emotionless, coming from a race of beings that had traveled across the galaxy to take Earth for their own. The aliens didn't want anything less than total control. They weren't interested in trading or negotiating. They had the power to crush humanity in an instant, and they made that clear. Their ships were massive, and their weapons were unlike anything Earth had ever seen. If the human armies tried to fight, they would lose in a matter of hours. At first, people were scared. The cities were dark. The streets were empty. Everyone was hiding, waiting for what they knew was coming. There was nothing they could do. The aliens were everywhere. They sent a fleet of ships to each major city, and their soldiers began to land. It was as if they were simply here to take control. The human race had no chance, or so the aliens thought. But there was something the aliens didn't know. Earth wasn't as weak as they thought. Humans may not have the same advanced technology, but they had something the aliens didn't: a strong will to survive. In the middle of all the chaos, there was a small group of people who were working hard to find a way to fight back. They were ordinary humans, scientists, engineers, and military leaders who refused to give up. They knew their chances were slim, but they also knew they couldn't just let their home be taken without a fight. In secret, these humans worked day and night. They created something the aliens hadn't expected: new weapons, powerful defenses, and most importantly, ships that could fight back. These weren't the massive ships the aliens had. These were smaller, faster, and more maneuverable. They were designed for one thing: to surprise the invaders and make them realize that Earth wasn't going down without a struggle. The first strike came suddenly, catching the alien forces by surprise. The aliens had sent their ships to destroy the human cities, but they didn't expect a counterattack. A fleet of human ships, small but fierce, rose from hidden bases deep within Earth's oceans and mountains. These ships were faster than the aliens' giant warships. They moved quickly, darting between the larger ships, firing weapons that the aliens had never seen before. The aliens were confused. They expected Earth's resistance to be weak, but instead, they faced a force that refused to back down. The first battle between humans and aliens was intense. Explosions lit up the sky as laser blasts and rockets flew back and forth. The alien ships were huge, their weapons powerful, but the human ships were nimble and unpredictable. As the battle raged on, the humans fought not just to survive, but to protect everything they had. They fought for their homes, their families, and their planet. And in doing so, they showed the aliens just how dangerous humans could be when pushed to the edge. For the first time, the aliens began to feel doubt. The human ships didn't just retreat. They fought back, and they fought hard. And they were winning. In the skies above Earth, the alien forces had underestimated humanity's spirit. They hadn't thought the humans would fight back at all. But now, it was clear that Earth was not going down without a fight. The aliens had expected to conquer Earth without a struggle. They thought humanity would bow, would surrender to their superior technology. But instead, Earth had made its first stand, and the humans had made sure the aliens knew that this would be no easy conquest. The battle was only beginning, and the aliens had no idea what they were up against. As the human ships continued to fight, more and more joined the fight. What started as a small group of defiant humans had quickly become a full-scale war. The aliens may have had advanced technology, but they had never faced an enemy like Earth. And that realization had begun to spread among their ranks. Earth was not going to submit. They had underestimated humanity, and now they would learn just how wrong they were. In that moment, as the alien ships hovered over Earth's cities, a new feeling spread across the planet. It wasn't fear. It was hope. The humans had fought back, and they had won. For the first time since the invasion began, Earth had a chance. A small but growing chance. And with that hope, humanity's resolve only grew stronger. As the battle continued, it became clear that this war would not be easily won. But one thing was certain. Earth would not bow. The humans had something the aliens didn't: determination. And that was just the beginning. The battle in the skies above Earth had only just begun, but already something extraordinary was happening. The aliens, who had assumed that Earth would surrender without a fight, were finding themselves caught, off guard. The small human ships, quick and agile, darted through the larger alien vessels with surprising skill. Each human ship seemed to move like a ghost, slipping between the gaps in the alien fleet, unleashing powerful strikes with precision and speed. The alien commanders were baffled. They had expected a quick victory, a smooth conquest of the planet. But the humans weren't running in fear, they were fighting back. And not just fighting, they were making the alien forces work harder than they had ever imagined. As the alien ships launched their weapons toward Earth's cities, the humans responded with tactics that seemed almost impossible for their size and technology. They were using advanced countermeasures, jamming alien systems and evading strikes with incredible agility. The humans had studied their enemy, learning every detail about the alien ships and their weaknesses. And it was paying off. One by one, the aliens began to lose ships. The humans might not have the same technology, but they had something the aliens didn't: resourcefulness. The alien invaders, who had assumed they were the superior force, were now beginning to question their own strategy. They had underestimated the humans in a way they had never imagined. In a hidden command center on Earth, scientists and military leaders watched the battle unfold. It was clear that Earth's survival depended on how well they could keep the aliens off balance. They had to take the fight to the invaders to show them that Earth was not a planet to be conquered without resistance. The leaders of Earth's military forces had made a bold decision. They would launch a counteroffensive, a strike aimed directly at the heart of the alien fleet. The human ships, small and fast, would not go head-to-head with the larger alien vessels. Instead, they would use their speed and agility to strike where the aliens least expected it. As the human ships gathered for the mission, the tension was palpable. The odds were still against them, but the humans had something the aliens didn't: understand, hope and determination. These were not just soldiers. They were ordinary people, fighting to protect their homes, their families, and their way of life. And that made all the difference. With a unified plan, the human fleet took off, soaring into the depths of space. They didn't have the firepower or the sheer numbers of the aliens, but they had something far more important: their will to fight. They would strike fast, they would strike hard, and they would not stop until they had given everything to protect Earth. The first wave of human ships broke through the alien blockade, drawing the attention of the larger enemy ships. The aliens, who had relied on their overwhelming strength, were now facing an entirely new type of warfare. They couldn't predict where the humans would strike next. They didn't know how to stop the unpredictable movements of the human ships. The humans had learned to use their weaknesses against them. The alien commanders, who had once been so confident, now found themselves on the defensive. Each time they thought they had the upper hand, another group of human ships appeared from a new direction, launching a surprise attack that left them scrambling to defend. For the first time, the alien forces began to feel something they had never considered: fear. The humans weren't fighting like any enemy the aliens had encountered. They were fighting like people who had nothing to lose, fighting for their very survival. And it was this spirit, this relentless desire to protect their home, that gave the humans an edge the aliens hadn't anticipated. In the midst of the chaos, a human commander named Captain Maria Jackson watched from the bridge of her ship as the battle unfolded. She had always known the odds were against them, but now she could see the change in the alien forces. They were no longer the overwhelming conquerors they had once seemed. They were starting to question their own plan, and that, she knew, was the key to victory. As the day wore on, the alien ships grew more and more disorganized. They were losing their grip on the battle. The humans, though outmatched in size and strength, were proving that their will to survive could overcome even the most advanced technology. The surprise counterattack had shaken the aliens to their core. They had underestimated Earth's ability to fight back, but now the humans had made it clear they were not going to roll over and let the aliens take their world. Earth would not be a planet to be conquered easily. It would fight to the very end, and in doing so, it would make the aliens understand that this war was far from over. The battle in space was just the beginning. The humans had proven that they were more than capable of standing up to the alien threat. They had turned the tide of the war, and now they were ready to take the fight to the next level. The aliens had thought they would crush Earth's resistance in a matter of days. But now the tables had turned and the aliens were beginning to realize that Earth was not a planet that would submit without a fight. And the humans, fighting with everything they had, were ready to make sure the aliens would never forget their mistake. The battle between the humans and the aliens had escalated, and the alien forces were beginning to experience something they had never expected: human resilience. Despite the overwhelming odds, Earth's fighters showed no sign of backing down. If anything, the pressure seemed to make them stronger, more determined. Every time the alien forces thought they had cornered humanity, the humans found a way to strike back, harder than before. On Earth's surface, the cities that had once been full of life now stood quiet, the streets empty as people took shelter. But beneath the surface, something extraordinary was happening. The spirit of humanity, the unwavering drive to survive, was burning brighter than ever. People who had once lived normal, everyday lives were now coming together to fight for the survival of their world. In hidden bunkers deep beneath the ground, engineers worked tirelessly, coming up with new inventions and weapons to give the humans an edge. Scientists who had once been focused on research were now creating devices to jam alien communications, disrupt their technology, and give Earth's defenders a fighting chance. Military leaders, strategists, and ordinary civilians, all working together as one, determined to defend their planet. Each day brought new surprises as human forces found creative ways to strike at the aliens. They were using the terrain of Earth to their advantage, hiding in the forests, mountains, and oceans, waiting for the perfect moment to launch a surprise attack. The alien invaders, for all their advanced technology, had never encountered anything like this. Earth was a land of endless possibilities, and the humans were using every inch of it to their advantage. The human fleets, which had once been small and outnumbered, were now growing. They were learning, adapting, and improving. The alien ships, which had seemed invincible at first, were starting to show signs of wear and tear. The once fearsome invaders were now beginning to doubt themselves, unsure of how to handle the unexpected force of human determination. Among the human commanders, there was a growing sense of unity and purpose. Captain Maria Jackson, one of the leaders of the human resistance, was determined to make sure her people would never give up. She had seen firsthand the resilience of her fellow soldiers and the people they were fighting to protect. She had witnessed moments of courage and selflessness that inspired everyone around her. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the future of their world, their families, and everything they held dear. In a command center deep underground, Maria stood over a map of the battlefield, looking at the positions of both the alien and human forces. Her eyes narrowed as she thought about the next move. She knew that the human forces were still outnumbered, still facing an uphill battle. But they had something the aliens did not: a fierce will to survive, and the ability to adapt to any challenge. "We can't let them think we're weak," Maria said, her voice steady but filled with resolve. "We have to show them that Earth won't bend. We'll do whatever it takes to push them back." Her words were met with agreement from the other commanders, who had seen the same thing on the front lines. The humans were far from defeated. They were resourceful, intelligent, and most importantly, they cared for their planet in a way the aliens never would. The aliens saw Earth as just another world to conquer, but to the humans, Earth was home, a place worth fighting for, no matter the cost. As the humans regrouped and strategized, the aliens continued to press on. But something had changed in the way they fought. Where they had once been confident and calculating, they were now frustrated. Their ships, once pristine and powerful, were showing signs of wear. Communications between their commanders had begun to break down. The unity they had once relied on was crumbling. On Earth, the resistance was gaining strength. More and more human ships launched from secret bases, their numbers growing with each passing day. The alien forces, despite their superior technology, were now facing a unified and determined enemy. It wasn't just the ships they had to worry about, it was the people. The humans weren't just fighting with weapons, they were fighting with everything they had, from their hearts to their minds. The aliens, who had believed they were the superior race, were now beginning to question everything. They had underestimated the strength of the human spirit. They had thought Earth would fall without a fight, but now they were discovering the truth. Humans would never give up. The aliens had made a critical mistake by assuming the humans would simply surrender. The heart of Earth's resistance beat strong, and the aliens were beginning to feel the weight of their own miscalculations. Captain Maria Jackson stood at the helm of her ship, watching the distant stars as they traveled toward their next mission. She knew that the road ahead was still long and filled with danger, but she also knew that Earth's defenders would never stop fighting. They had proven that they were not like the aliens. They were not conquerors or invaders. They were protectors. And as long as the humans stood together, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. In the distance, the alien fleet loomed, but for the first time it no longer seemed invincible. The humans were fighting back, and they were winning. Every day they were proving that no matter how advanced their enemies were, they could never break the human spirit. The battle for Earth was far from over, but one thing was certain. The HFY humans would fight with everything they had. They would fight for their families, for their future, and for the world they loved. And that was something no alien force could ever take away. As days turned into weeks, the war between humanity and the alien invaders raged on. The alien forces, once certain that victory was inevitable, were now starting to falter. Their huge, powerful ships seemed less and less unstoppable. The humans, with their clever tactics and unwavering spirit, had managed to stay one step ahead. Every time the aliens thought they had gained an advantage, the humans surprised them. It wasn't just the advanced technology of the human ships. It was the ingenuity and heart of the people who piloted them. On Earth's surface, life was difficult. Most major cities were in ruins, and the global economy had ground to a halt. But in the shadows of the destruction, there was something remarkable happening. People were coming together in ways that had never been seen before. Governments, military forces, and civilians were united, all with the same goal: to drive the aliens from their planet and protect what remained of their world. In the face of unimaginable odds, the unity among Earth's people had never been stronger. In one of the underground bunkers, scientists and engineers worked day and night, creating new strategies and technologies. They had learned much from the alien forces, studying their ships, their tactics, and their technology. The humans were still far behind, but they were catching up quickly. New weapons were being developed, ones that could weaken the alien ship's shields and disrupt their control systems. Human ingenuity had turned the tide in small skirmishes, and now it was becoming clear that the aliens were losing their edge. Captain Maria Jackson, who had risen through the ranks of the resistance, stood at the head of a war council, listening intently as her team of experts briefed her on the new developments. The plan they had been working on for weeks was finally ready. The moment had arrived. The humans had learned enough from their struggles to make a decisive strike. "Now is our chance," Maria said, her voice calm but filled with purpose. "We've weakened their command center. It's time to hit them where it hurts." The plan was risky, but it was their best shot. The alien fleet had been scattered across the planet's atmosphere, each ship trying to maintain control over different sectors of Earth's defenses. The human ships had been able to strike at smaller targets, disrupting the aliens' communication systems and weakening their hold on Earth. But now, the humans were ready for the next phase. An all-out strike on the central command of the alien forces. It was a delicate operation. The humans knew that a direct confrontation with the alien ships would be disastrous. Instead, they would use their knowledge of the terrain, Earth's vast oceans, mountains, and forests, to outsmart the invaders. The key was to be unpredictable, to keep the aliens guessing about where the next strike would come from. The day of the attack arrived. Under the cover of darkness, the human fleet assembled at a hidden base deep beneath the ocean. The ships, small and swift, were prepared to launch the final offensive. The alien forces, despite their advanced technology, had underestimated the creativity and resilience of the human mind. The human fleet had been carefully designed to outmaneuver and outthink their enemies, and now the time to put that to the test had come. The first wave of human ships broke through the alien defenses, slipping past the enemy lines and taking out several key targets with surprising precision. The alien commanders, caught off guard by the speed and unpredictability of the human attack, scrambled to organize a response, but it was already too late. The humans were inside their defenses and they were moving quickly. Maria watched the battle unfold from the bridge of her ship, her eyes focused and determined. She knew that the battle was far from over, but this moment felt different. For the first time since the invasion began, the humans were in control. The alien forces were struggling to maintain their position, and they were slowly starting to realize that their victory was not as certain as they had once thought. The human ships, small and agile, continued to strike at the alien command center. Their coordinated efforts were flawless, and with each successful strike, the aliens grew more and more disoriented. It wasn't long before the alien forces began to retreat, their once formidable presence in Earth's skies starting to crumble. Back on Earth, the resistance forces watched in awe as the tide of battle shifted in their favor. The alien ships, which had once seemed invincible, were now being pushed back. The humans had done it. Against all odds, they had found a way to fight back and win. Maria's heart raced as the final blow was struck. The alien command center, a massive structure hovering above Earth, was finally disabled. The enemy's leadership was in chaos, their communication lines severed, and their ability to coordinate the invasion shattered. The alien forces, once so sure of their dominance, were now scrambling to regroup, unsure of their next move. The war was far from over, but the humans had achieved something extraordinary. They had turned the tide of battle in their favor. The aliens had underestimated the power of human determination, and now they were feeling the weight of their mistake. For the first time in the entire conflict, the humans felt something they hadn't experienced in months. Hope. The moment marked a turning point in the war. The humans had shown the aliens that they were not helpless. They were not a species to be crushed easily. The humans had fought with everything they had, using their strength, their minds, and their hearts to drive the invaders back. As Maria stood on the bridge of her ship, watching the chaos unfold in the skies above, she knew that the battle was not yet won. But one thing was certain: the humans would never give up. They would continue to fight, continue to push back against the invaders until Earth was free. And with each victory, no matter how small, the hope for the future of their world grew stronger. The human resistance had reached a critical point. After weeks of relentless battles and countless sacrifices, the turning tide had begun to favor them. The once overwhelming alien presence was now fractured and uncertain, struggling to maintain control of Earth's atmosphere. The invaders had underestimated the resilience and ingenuity of the humans, and now, it seemed as though Earth might finally be on the path to victory. But the war was not yet over. There was still a long way to go before the aliens would be fully driven off their world. In the command center of the human resistance, the atmosphere was tense but hopeful. The rooms, lined with maps and communication terminals, were filled with the sharp hum of activity. Scientists, strategists, and military commanders huddled around screens, analyzing data and discussing the next move. There was no time to rest. Every moment was critical. Captain Maria Jackson stood at the center of the operation, her eyes focused on the massive screen that displayed the latest reports. The alien forces, though disorganized, still had formidable strength. Their largest ships, while damaged, had managed to regroup in certain sectors, and they were holding their ground. But the humans had learned a valuable lesson. The aliens were not invincible. They were vulnerable in ways they had never anticipated. Maria had one goal now: to strike decisively, to push the aliens out once and for all. The plan was bold, but it was humanity's best chance. The alien fleet had been weakened, but there was still a substantial force remaining. To ensure a lasting victory, the human resistance needed to disrupt the remaining alien strongholds, destroy their remaining command structures, and prevent them from organizing another attack. Time was of the essence. As she reviewed the data, a young officer entered the room holding a small tablet. "Captain, we've discovered something," the officer said, his voice urgent. "It looks like the aliens are trying to rebuild their command structure, setting up a new headquarters at a remote location. It's heavily guarded, but if we strike now, we could catch them off guard." Maria took the tablet, studying the map. The location was in the mountains, a place that was difficult to reach and heavily fortified. But it was also a critical point for the alien fleet's survival. If they lost this base, it would break their coordination and render their remaining ships vulnerable. The humans had to act quickly. The final push was now or never. "We'll do it," Maria said, a calm determination in her voice. "We'll gather our best forces and hit them hard. This is the moment we've been waiting for." As the word spread, the resistance forces rallied together, each soldier, engineer, and pilot knowing the importance of the mission. This would be the operation that determined whether Earth would survive or fall. Everyone had a part to play, and each person understood the stakes. In the skies above Earth, the human ships were preparing for the assault. The pilots, skilled and experienced, checked their equipment, ensuring their ships were ready for the challenge. These ships, once so small and vulnerable compared to the alien behemoths, were now a symbol of humanity's perseverance. They were agile, fast, and equipped with technology that had been crafted by Earth's greatest minds. They weren't as powerful as the alien ships, but they were far more unpredictable. The operation was underway. As the human fleet made its way toward the alien stronghold, they faced harsh weather conditions and the remnants of the alien fleet, which was determined to keep its hold on the planet. The alien ships fought to slow the human advance, but the humans had learned how to outmaneuver them, to use the terrain and the element of surprise to their advantage. Maria led the charge, her ship cutting through the atmosphere, her mind focused on the task at hand. The mountains below were jagged and treacherous, but they provided perfect cover for the humans to strike unnoticed. As they approached the alien base, the tension was palpable. Every soldier knew that their mission would determine the fate of Earth. The alien base came into view, nestled deep within the mountain range. The massive alien ships were docked nearby, and smaller defense turrets were scattered across the area. But despite the heavy security, the humans were determined to succeed. They had come too far to fail now. In a coordinated effort, the human fleet launched its attack. The first wave of ships swooped in, disabling the outer defenses of the alien base. The second wave followed close behind, deploying ground forces that quickly took control of key points. The battle was fierce, but the humans fought with a determination and unity that the aliens had never expected. Each success brought them closer to their goal, the heart of the alien command. As the human forces moved deeper into the alien base, they encountered the enemy's remaining commanders, who were desperately trying to organize a defense. But the humans were relentless, striking with precision and focus. The alien forces, once so confident, were now scrambling to respond, realizing that their position was rapidly becoming untenable. In the midst of the chaos, Maria and her team reached the central control room of the alien stronghold. They quickly took control of the base's systems, severing the communication lines between the alien ships and cutting off their ability to organize. The alien commanders, realizing their defeat, began to retreat, abandoning their once impenetrable base. As the final defenses fell and the alien stronghold was dismantled, Maria stood at the control panel, watching the alien ships begin to retreat from Earth's atmosphere. For the first time in the entire conflict, it felt as though Earth had truly won. The alien forces, shattered and disorganized, had no choice but to withdraw. The mission was a success, but the war was not entirely over. There would be more battles, more obstacles to overcome. But for now, Earth had achieved a victory. The final push had been the turning point. The human forces, united by their love for their world and their refusal to give up, had driven the aliens from their home. Maria looked out across the horizon, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. Earth had fought back, and now it was time to rebuild. The world was not yet safe, but the humans had shown the aliens that they were not so easily defeated. Earth's future was still uncertain, but for the first time, there was hope. And that hope was enough to fuel the fight for as long as it took to restore peace to their world. With the alien forces retreating, humanity had won a critical victory. The atmosphere on Earth had shifted. What once felt like an endless struggle now seemed like the first steps toward a new era. But even though the invaders had been pushed back, the scars of the war remained. Cities lay in ruins, entire ecosystems had been disrupted, and countless lives had been lost. The battle for Earth had cost humanity dearly, but it had also awakened something deep within the human spirit. It wasn't just survival they fought, for it was their world, their way of life, and their future. In the days following the final battle, Earth's governments came together, united by a shared purpose, to rebuild and heal. The world, once divided by political tensions and conflicts, now stood together as one. The alien invasion had done what years of diplomacy and struggle could not. It had united the people of Earth in a way no one thought possible. Captain Maria Jackson, though weary from the long fight, stood at the forefront of this new effort. Her heart, filled with pride and relief, was also burdened with the knowledge of the work that lay ahead. The war had ended, but the real challenge was only beginning. Earth had to rebuild its cities, restore its economies, and heal the wounds left by the conflict. The scars of war, both physical and emotional, would take time to heal. But Maria had seen the strength of humanity's resolve, and she knew that Earth was up to the task. As Earth's leaders met in a historic summit, plans for recovery were drawn up. The alien technology that had once seemed so threatening was now being studied for its potential to help humanity. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to reverse engineer the advanced technology, hoping to unlock new innovations that could help rebuild Earth. The very same weapons the aliens had used to invade the planet could now be repurposed to heal and improve life for everyone. Humanity was also focused on ensuring that no threat like this could ever happen again. New alliances were formed, not just among the nations of Earth, but with other species who had been watching the events unfold from afar. The human spirit had captured the imagination of the galaxy, and many beings from different worlds had sent their support, pledging their help in rebuilding. The war had shown that Earth was no longer a small, isolated planet. It was a force to be reckoned with, a symbol of hope and resilience. Maria and her team, now known as the leaders of the human resistance, worked alongside these new allies. Together, they began the slow and steady process of reconstruction. The first priority was to restore basic services, rebuild food production, and clear the rubble from cities so that people could return to their homes. But alongside the practical work of rebuilding, there was a deep cultural and emotional effort. The people of Earth had suffered, and they needed to find ways to heal the emotional scars of the conflict. Maria spent much of her time traveling across the world, speaking to survivors and encouraging them to remain hopeful. She visited schools where children had been traumatized by the war, offering them words of comfort and reassurance. She met with families who had lost loved ones, helping them find ways to honor the sacrifices that had been made. Through it all, Maria remained a symbol of hope, her unbreakable spirit inspiring others to keep pushing forward, no matter how hard the road ahead seemed. Meanwhile, the remaining alien ships that had been disabled during the conflict were being carefully examined. The goal wasn't just to understand their technology, but also to ensure that nothing of the alien forces remained that could potentially harm Earth again. The wreckage of their ships was scattered in various parts of the planet, and the humans were working with their new allies to safely dismantle them, removing anything that could pose a future threat. But it wasn't just about defense. It was about ensuring that humanity would never be caught off guard again. As Earth's governments began to rebuild and forge new alliances, the message of the human resistance was clear. Earth had been changed, not just by the war, but by the unity that had emerged from it. It was no longer just a planet to be fought over. It had become a symbol of resilience, a beacon for other worlds to look to. Humans had learned to stand together in the face of incredible adversity, and that unity would carry them forward into the future. Maria often reflected on how far Earth had come since the first days of the invasion. There had been moments of fear, doubt, and darkness, but through it all, humanity had endured. And it wasn't just the warriors who had fought in the sky or on the ground. It was the civilians, the engineers, the scientists, and the children who had all come together. The strength of humanity wasn't just in their weapons or their military might. It was in their hearts, their minds, and their ability to persevere. One afternoon, as Maria stood on a hill overlooking a once-destroyed city now being rebuilt, she thought about the future. Earth had survived the invasion, but the real challenge lay ahead, creating a world where peace could flourish, where humanity could live without fear of invaders. And though she knew the road would be long, she was confident that the same spirit that had driven humanity to victory in the darkest days would guide them in rebuilding the world. Her thoughts were interrupted by a voice behind her. It was one of her fellow commanders, now working to help restore global stability. "Captain," the commander said, "we've made contact with another planet. They've heard of what we did, and they want to offer their help in any way they can." Maria smiled. "That's just the beginning," she said, her voice filled with hope. "We've proven that we can survive anything. And now, we have the opportunity to help others too." Earth had been scarred by war, but it had also been reborn. And with the support of their newfound allies, humanity would build a future stronger than ever before. The battle for Earth may have ended, but humanity's journey into the stars, into a future of unity, hope, and discovery, was just beginning.